I am concerned as to the fact that The Bachelor is still a TV show, still making seasons, and a popular one at that. I came across by chance the intro slash sneak peek segment at the very beginning of this new season that they just made of the Bachelor TV show, and this video that I'm making now almost came out last week as like a rant of sorts, but I've given it time, pushed it off until now, and hopefully I now have more collected and reasonable thoughts on why I think that the show, The Bachelor, and its variations are just about one of the worst things that men or women pursuing relationships could watch. I will start by saying that I have never actually watched this show. I have no real investment into the show as a viewer. I've read a fair amount about it, heard a fair amount about it, and by chance ended up seeing bits and pieces over the past number of years about this show, and of course ended up on this intro piece for this new season. So I feel at least informed enough to give my thoughts, and my intent with this video is not just to bash the show, and it's definitely not to accuse people who watch the show. My hope is to provide my thoughts and hopefully not just negativity, but a positive alternative perspective. So here we go. Can I just say, on the bare surface of the idea of the show, if I were to tell you that I know a guy who is currently dating seriously for the sake of engagement and to ultimately be married 20 to 30 different women at the same time, would you think that that's okay? Would you think that that's right? It just blows my mind that this show that would be clearly inappropriate for someone to do in a real life setting is a popular media show, and to some extent the model for relationships that we have within the popular media. Now, immediately you're maybe saying, I definitely don't watch the show for relationship advice or because I think that's normal. I actually watch the show because it is so absurd and unrealistic, and that provides some kind of entertainment value. Okay, I understand that. That makes sense. But at the same time, I think it's important for us to take into account the things that we're consuming, because the things that we take in, the things that we read, hear, see, intentionally or unintentionally, have some effect on our thought process. Which isn't to say that you're just gonna subconsciously automatically start thinking that dating 30 people at once is the right approach, probably the way to go about it. But there's so many other aspects of this TV series that give such a poor framework for dating relationships, for trying to engage someone and attract someone to engage in a dating relationship, and really just for love in general. And the thing that first caught my attention in this intro video, a woman says, in reference to Peter, the bachelor in question, "He is looking so delicious. I just want to lick him up and down." First of all, that made me highly uncomfortable, but I think that this leads to so many other issues here. For one, to some extent, the objectification of Peter, the guy. And when we're talking about these kind of TV shows, most of the time we're talking about the other way around, where men objectifying women, and we'll get to how that plays a role in the show as well. But you, me, Peter, anyone, we are not just objects for pleasure. And you and I and the 20 to 30 other women on the show are not simply sexual animals. We are rational, we're emotional, we're relational. And I think that the fact that the guy's sex appeal is one of the highlighted leading factors that the women look for on this show, it might give women the wrong idea of what to look for in a guy. That they ought to look for a guy as delicious as this guy. And on the flip side, like I mentioned, this show horribly objectifies women in a lot of ways, and I think really gives a poor idea of what it takes for a woman to win a guy. And I say win because the way that the show is set up, there's 20 to 30 women pitted against each other, tearing each other down, trying to one-up each other just to get noticed by this one guy. As if, like, to win a guy for marriage, for spousal love, is as if you were the final contestant on a game show. And how do they one-up each other? What is one of the clear ways that the show portrays women as trying to influence the guy's decision? Who is the most romantic? Who is the best kisser? Who is the sexiest? Who provides the most sexual pleasure to the bachelor? Which essentially reduces dating, the process of finding your husband or your wife, to who best fulfills my sexual needs. For one, that clearly objectifies women, bringing them down to simply sexual objects that the man's picking. But what kind of message does this give to women? How do you win over a man's love? By fulfilling his sexual needs. And that is not love, that is use. Love is rational, emotional, relational, communicating, caring, not just sex. And this show just adds to the cultural idea and standard that love is determined by sexual intimacy when it should be the other way around. That it's not, I love you for how well you give me sexual intimacy, but it should be, I give you this sexual intimacy for how you have proven to me that you love me and how much I love you first. And it creates this warped expectation that pressures women to assume that my relational worth is dependent on my sexual appeal. And it empowers men to say, fulfill my sexual needs and then I'll love you. And that's just not it. That's not real, that's not beautiful, and that's not love. That's use. And whether you're aware of that messaging or not, that's the message that this show gives. Again, for people who maybe watch the show watching this, there's nothing for me to accuse you of. I'm not trying to bash anyone for watching the show. I'm just trying to create awareness that love is more than this. Yeah. If that made sense to you, if that resonated with you, let me know in the comments. And maybe a challenge to all of us, to men and to women, that love is more than what this show, what this culture, what our media tells us. Yeah. Thumbs up if you liked it. See you in the next one.